Strongly support that particular clause.
Mr. Chair.
Honourable Marianne Street.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I also rise to take a short call in these committee stages. Mr. Chairman, it's a truism to say that history is important to us. It doesn't matter whether we're Māori or Pākehā or of any other ethnic extraction. Each of us holds to our history with a fierce grip. The history of our tupuna, our relationships with the people whom our tupuna had relationships with, are of critical importance to who we are now. And I feel that as strongly as a Pākehā, as Māori do about their tupuna. And I recognise, with all my Pākehā pedigree, that I'm linked back to England and a little bit to Scotland, but primarily England, and I can't ignore that part of my heritage. When we are debating this bill, Mr. Chairman, I think we need to recall the significance of history, because while I do not wish to delay the proceedings of this House to getting to the Mokomoko Restoration Bill, I do also want to reiterate the point, even at the committee stages, that I made earlier, that any movement away from the constitutional relationship we currently have with the Queen of England, who, as the Minister says, is also the Queen of New Zealand, has to be one that is thought through extremely carefully with those descendants of the people who signed a treaty with Queen Victoria. It was a treaty with Queen Victoria. If we are no longer to have a sovereign in place in our founding documents, then we have to be very, very certain that that treaty is not eroded and in fact is enhanced in the process. So I am not quick to move to a republic because of that reason, if no other. But I also want to respect the role of the sovereign and, in fact, the lifetime of service that the current sovereign has given to her in the United Kingdom, but also across the Commonwealth, where she has acknowledged and moved with the times as members of the Commonwealth have established their own constitutional arrangements, their own parliamentary independence, their own separate status, but remaining part of the extraordinary residue of colonisation, which is the Commonwealth. And that has both good and bad things attached to it. But it is a residual vestige of colonisation which has transformed into something that can and has been of international significance. And that is not to be diminished by any of the lightheartedness that I brought to my earlier contribution to this debate. What we have in Aotearoa, New Zealand, is a unique debate about the role of the sovereign. At this point, we are modernising the royal succession in agreement with every other country that is one of the realms of the sovereign. So this has been agreed with all the relevant countries. It would be unhelpful, unconstructive and in fact quite extraordinary if we were not to support this, because it affects not only New Zealand but all of those countries that are represented at the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting. So in Perth in 2011, these changes were approved by that family of countries in principle, and this is their final moment of fruition here in New Zealand. I want to just stress, however, that constitutional matters must always be informed by history. Our constitutional arrangements in New Zealand have had a preponderance towards inheriting British traditions and British laws, and our point of difference in the world, Mr. Chairman. Just let me finish the
Marion
sentence.
Street.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our point of difference in the world is Te Tiriti o Waitangi, and we need to preserve that and our uniqueness at all costs. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for your indulgence.
Gareth Hughes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.